Welcome back everyone! First of all, to finish this, we need to have a super clean airbrush, so I'm going to show you how to do that. First things first. If there's any paint in your cup, you make sure that it's out. You rinse it with water, spray out the first paint residues, and then just rinse it with water. So that's the first thing we do. I'm spraying it out in a spray can. This is particularly great if you don't want all the damp and dust in your studio or your lungs. It's a spray out can or cleaning pot. I always put a piece of kitchen paper in there, so when that is full, you don't necessarily need to wash the whole pot or jar, but you just take out the paper. The thing that fell, that was my electric eraser, but I can fix it again. So that's the cleaning pot, and I'm just gonna empty all the paint in the pot. When the paint's out, I'm going to put some cleaner in there. You can use an airbrush cleaner or alcohol if you don't have anything. This is a very nice one, or the Iwata 360 degrees nozzle cleaner is also very good. If you need a clean nozzle, you can spray it out under high pressure. So then your cup needs to be empty, okay? So your paint needs to be out. If you want to clean your nozzle, you take a piece of kitchen paper. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. I can't. There we go. You hold it in front of your needle and then you squeeze up and down while you give paint under high pressure. This is with cleaner and all the paint is out, as you can see. So this here will really super clean your nozzle, and it also takes out dry little clumps of paint to reassure us that we have a clean airbrush while we are applying colors and details. And you spray out the last bit and you rinse it with water, so no cleaner is left in the paint. Gotta rinse it with water. And the water is totally transparent, that means my airbrush is clean. Finally, I also take out the needle. I rinse it through my fingers, and if it's really dirty, you just put a piece of paper towel, a soft one, on the table. You spray some cleaner on it, push it down, roll it backwards while pressing it down so you cannot damage the tip, and the tip can be perfectly cleaned. Then last but not least, I apply a tiny bit of technical balm. I love the K33 balm, also available at Foxy Studio. By the way, all the materials are available at Foxy Studio. And this I find the best. It's a technical balm. It doesn't leave any oily residues or soapy residues like the Iwata has with his airbrushes. It's good for one day and then it gets sticky, but this not. It stays very nice. It loops very nice. So I only apply it if I really rinsed my needle. And you gently put it back. Make sure that the trigger is down. Move it a little bit in the middle so that everything gets lubricated. Gentle, don't go all the way down. And then you push it forward until you feel resistant and the needle comes out. Then do not push, only give it a little twist and then close the needle screw. Now we have a perfectly cleaned and lubricated airbrush. To make sure there's no dirt or residues in there, I put a bit more water in the cup and I try it out on the side. A tiny bit came out, you see. So, you can't see that, but let me just move it. So this is a dirty drop. So I do it again until the water is absolutely clean. That's it. A little speckle came along and now it's really clean. So for the next step, we're going to apply the colors that I feel we are missing. You could leave it like this, but she's not done yet. And for the first half an hour, I'm just going to apply the colors and some details. And for the full pack members, I'm going to apply some extra techniques like the earrings and super details, and turn it from a soft portrait into a hyper-realistic portrait. It's another thing, it's another theme, but that's the bonus for the full pack members. So if you like to see that, stay tuned. I'm first going to start with the main color that I'm missing, and that is the color of the lips, a cold pink. You could mix this color of the lips and then you'll have a really specific lip color, or you could glaze and go back and forth with white to build up those layers and keep it a bit more in control per layer. Now what I really want to show you is how to mix that color of the lip and apply it accurately. I had the color of the lip, but that was used for the first layer. I'm going to mix a transparent color. Transparent colors are really hard to apply because they always get darker and darker. You can't really rely on the color, but I need it transparent because I already have a base. You first need to look at the color wheel, and it's somewhere around here. It's a cold pink. Let's put it there. A cold pink would be a magenta, a lavender, or a crimson. Any of these reds would be good. Alright? I will show you how to test it because you can't really test a transparent color. Now crimson is very close to the madder red. This is the madder red. It's like a crimson. It's a dark cold red. This is magenta. This is slightly warmer, slightly darker. I'm going to try it with these two first. Alright? Now let me take the coldest one because I already have a quite warm base. Cold plus cold is super cold. So let's try, cold plus warm is going to be probably good. But warm plus warm is going to be too warm. Cold with cold would be too cold. Simple math. So I'm going to mix cold on top of warm, and that's probably going to give me somewhere in between, like I see on the reference photo. All we need for this is a transparent sheet. Now this is a nice trick. I just see that my transparent sheet, it fell on the floor, so it's a bit dirty. I'm going to find a new piece. Hang on. I don't need a lot of it, so I'm just going to cut a part of a transparent sheet. You can take anything that's transparent. Make sure that it's sort of clean. It has been used, but it's clean, it's not been on the floor. And I apply it over my lip. Now, the more transparent the better, you can see, but let's stick with this. I'm going to shape the color. And of course you need to see what color I'm aiming for. So I'm going to move the reference closer to my painting. Now you can see it with me. So I'm aiming for this color, and you can see it's a bit colder, a bit pink. I'm going to do it with the optical layer technique, and to take away the most of the guessing, I apply a transparent little sheet. I have 1 drop of magenta without any water, because on the sheet it won't absorb and I can't really see anything if I thin it. So I'm not going to put water until I go on my painting. So for the transparent sheet test, I use a pure color. I start in the dark because that's where we see most of the color appearing. I'm just going to paint a little bit over the lip and see if this is getting better or worse. I think it looks beautiful. So I'm actually quite happy with this color, and then with a tiny little bit of transparent white I can make the cracks glaze again until it sits right. Now let's dilute this color. I will thin it 1 on 3, 1 on 4, something like that. And I will also apply a drop of colorless medium, this to prevent a really strong glaze. 2 drops is enough. We mix it really, really good. And now this is my color. It's still quite strong, but for the lips we can have a little bit more color than, for example, I would do in the face. I will start in the dark. If you want, you can use a piece of paper to shield it, or just be very careful. I'm I'm starting to color the shades because there's where you will find more color altogether with the darker midtones. For the highlights, I will have to dilute my paint at least double. Otherwise, there is a chance that my whole lip becomes dark and pink and it won't have any more depth like she has now. You will take away the contrast. I'm also going over the little lip cracks, and then later with a small eraser like the Tombow, I can sculpt them and push them inwards. Now, I find the color for the light a little bit too strong, so I'm gonna go down for the darks, just do the darks first, and then for the light I'm going to make the color less intense. I'm going to neutralize it a bit. For the to neutralize the color, we can go to the opposite on the color wheel. So I'm using a magenta. I would need a green that is not cold, not very warm, somewhere in the middle. It's called the spring green. So basically a green. Any green would work, but try to find not a yellow green and not a blue green, something in the middle. Like grass green, you know? Where to find a grass green. Viridian would be good, for example. Very little because I don't want it black. If I add a similar amount, it becomes black. I just want to neutralize it, and it is like adding pepper and salt to a dish. So probably 1 drop is too much. What I will do normally is put a drop on a side dish. Now put it here, and then you take a stick or a brush, put it on your brush tip, and then twist it around until it neutralizes your color enough. I'm going to do that here with a little brush, but from my piece of paper. This is probably already too much. Let's see. It's actually good. It's a bit more neutral now. So instead of that very bright magenta, I now have a more gray magenta. I'm going to dilute it more because I'm going to do lighter areas. It's slightly grayer, not much. I'm going to add a little bit more. I saw it more on the brush than on the airbrush. I've added one more touch. Let's mix it. Now this looks good. It took away the brightest of the magenta. I'm gently coloring the midsection of the lip. It's actually also really good for the sides of the lip. The midsection, on the upper lip, be careful for your highlights. You don't want to hit or lose your highlights. And even the sides of my lips can go darker with this neutral. So we got the main color down, but I can still see some differences. I find a really bright, almost orange looking red right underneath the shadow of the lip, and maybe there's a bit more around the highlights that I'm lacking, so I'm going to color it a bit more. And this way I can give it more textures or details. With a soft portrait, you want to put all the focus on the eyes, lips and nose. You're not going to make details in the cheeks or in the hairs. You're going to leave that like that. So the only thing that jumps into the eye of the beholder is the T-zone. For a hyperrealistic portrait, you would work out the whole area here, except for the shadows. In the shadows, you fill it in with a base texture, but in the lighter tones and the mid-tones, you fill it in with lots and lots of details and the right sharpness. That's not the case in here. A few details here on the side part of the lip, and I will take a soft eraser like a Tombow to sculpt all those little details. Build it up in layers, so don't try to go too fast at once, and give enough paint for your eraser to do something. You don't want that eraser to erase all the way back to the board. You just want to use it to create some textures or a bit more volume in those little lip cracks. Let me get a clean pencil. Here we go. Chop it up a bit. Now be very gentle. You don't need to go through those layers. So if you want it cleaner or brighter, you just repeat. Everything you do aggressive will make a hole in the painting, and it will just make it look, I don't know, like you've erased it. If I'm using an eraser, you can barely see that I'm using an eraser. I'm only using it to sculpting things. I'm not using it to correct mistakes. I'm using it to create light shapes, details, and textures. If you need a really sharp lip crack, you can take a piece of paper. I'll just use this as it's in front of me. And you got some shapes. You can look at the lip while doing this. And then, for example, I want to bring out this little bump. I protect the dark. I place it over the dark, and then I use the side to create just a bit more sharpness. There we go. Same thing here. Put it on the right side. It's very subtle, but you can see it's making it a transition. And it's very controllable this way. Also here I would like to create this little cushion that we can find right above that shadow shape. So we're going to put a little bit of effort today on those lip cracks. There's even a light in that shadow shape, so I'm going to form the shadow shape as well using my little Tombow eraser and a piece of paper. It's also great to use the edge of the paper to push off some little details, such as these tiny cracks and dots that we can find right here in the corner. The sharpest one, they can be taken out with a scalpel or an electric eraser, something that is a bit more aggressive than this one, or even a glass fiber pen. But make sure that our main goal remains to keep it soft. So you have to be careful with tools that can remove paint aggressively. I'm not stopping until it sits right. I'm looking for everything that I can find and the light textures that I can possibly sculpt out with these two tools. Now you see why you need enough paint to do this, because white on white doesn't work. There we go. This lip is slowly starting to get some definition. Details, textures, color. It wasn't even that before. It was a nice base, which you could leave it that way, but you can also try to push it a little bit further. This will be a nice eye catcher. There's also a beautiful light underneath the lip. It's kind of a hard light, soft on the top and hard on the bottom, so we'll use this paper as well to to make sure that I don't lose the shape. And then I remove it and make it slightly softer without, by rubbing over the edge of the shape that I've just formed. I might need a more strong eraser for that. Let's get the pink one from Faber-Castell. This one works perfect for that. Maybe some extra push in here and there on those light things that I've created. Don't forget your highlights. Also, this one here above the nose is now, I need this tip of the highlight to see if it's really above the philtrum, which is really above the crack in the lip, or the cupid in the lip. So let me make the center correct. A larger highlight with a softer spread, then a pointy light shape. But a bit rounder on the right. It's pointy but round. And this needs to be slightly lighter too. Once you start finding the light, your eyes are now just focused on that. So never try to see multiple things at the same time. If you're working with paint, not white, but a color, you're not really fixated on details in the light. So you're only fixated on the details in the dark or the shapes in the dark. And if you're erasing, you're fixated on the light. So you're going to look for the details and the nuances in the light. Finally, they will come together, and then you can refine everything and balance it. So now I'm a bit fixated on the light, and since I was looking for the center, I'm going to stay in the nose and make sure that the shapes of the light are large enough. It's all part of balance. Also here I want a little bit more light. You can see that I'm twisting instead of dragging the eraser up and down, because when you twist you have way more control over the amount of paint that you scuff off or sand off or erase, however you like to call it. And it's also less stripy, so it's more like a skin texture. There's not much pressure when I erase. It's all quite a soft movement. Need to push down this line a bit. Tiny bit more light on the tip of the nose and even underneath the nostril. Now this is a beautiful line to use your paper shield and create a somewhat sharper edge for the light. Yeah, don't exaggerate. Also here, so now I'm happy with the nose, but also here we can find some sharper little textures. We're not going to go into those textures too much, but it's taking away some of the shadow that was too much around the nose. So in that case, I'm using it to create a sharper light and a better mid-tone. So I'm going to push this down as well. Details always take some time. You can take as much time as you like, but remember that if you do this kind of style, just stay there. That way you won't lose a lot of time to it. But once you start, you need to try and not get ahead of yourself and lose yourself in all those details. So just go for the highlights and don't even look further. Just only stay in the highlights. I'm going to need this side of the face. Let's see if I can move it a bit for you guys. Well, you got the reference in case you want to see the full image. You can just use the digital reference. But there are some highlights here, because if I don't zoom in, you will see less of what I'm doing. I prefer you to see the painting instead of the reference fully. Here we go. The lights are all in. We want to make her smile a bit, so I'm going to push up the lip with light. Our eyes follow the light, so you can actually manipulate the viewer's eye, the direction of the eye, by moving the light. We are a bit like mosquitoes, you know. We follow the light. A bit more light on the bottom of the mouth. And if you want the lights to be colder, you just glaze it with a cold color, such as blue or violet or green, and that's going to take out some of the heat. So my next step after the lips will be to look for cooler colors. I haven't really used a lot of cool colors yet, except for the black. But the blue that we see in the eyes was just black and a bit of white. There's a beautiful glow on the bottom of the chin. If you do this, you might as well protect your shadow to not lose the shape of the face. If you do it like me, just go really gentle without pushing, and just repeat. I think that's enough. Now let's see if I can still use a bit of this color. I think because I took away some color, I'm going to give back some, as I've created my textures and lights. Now I need to just balance it. I think that looks good. It's just starting to look good. And there's a bit of pink on the bottom of the lid. And even in the corners, we can find some pink. There's a glow on top of her face. Make sure that your paint is really thin. There's also a pink glow between the light and into the shadow border. So I'm just going to dust over from a far, far distance. Everywhere I see pink, I'm going to add some lip color. So that's here, 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 here. It's very little. I'm going to push some pink in between the hairs and the edges of the shadows. She's missing some of that neutral pink here. All the shades between the hairs have it, and even the ear. Now that was a little too much. That touched the cheek a little bit too much, and if you have that, you can take a magic sponge. This is a magic sponge. You can also get this in the shop, Foxy Studio, or wherever you can find it. And you gently scuff it without pressing. You just scuff it until you see it's going away, or you're creating a soft light. It also helps to blend light and light midtones. It can create beautiful transitions with a soft, fine texture for the skin. Now I love that. I love that effect. I'm going to do it here too. It also sort of helps to push those colors together very gently. It's subtle, but it's beautiful. I'm going to polish the nose too. And if you like, you can even soften the chin. There we go. Let me dust it out. If you use it wet, you can remove the whole painting with it. It would wash off anything water-based. Now I want to glaze with my cooler colors. I'm going to start with a blue. Clean it out. And I will take a sea blue. Let me just find it. I'll show you the sky colors, the sky blue. It's a candy, it's ultra transparent because blue is a dangerous color, and the candies, these are ultra transparent water-based candies. The candies are really nice to work with, very easy. It's one drop of color and you fill it all the way to the little tube of your cup, so all the way up there. I fill it with water, okay? Then I'm going to mix it. It will still be strong, you will see. And if you want to thin this, you just put some medium in there. It's highly transparent, so every detail that you have underneath will be shown. If you still find this too strong to work in the face, you thin it some more. But first I'm going to do the eyes. It will intensify the blue in the eyes. Also the eyeballs, and even this here. It's a bit on fire, so I'm going to put the fire out. Sorry. Using a tiny bit of sky blue. You see how that glow disappears of the red? I'm sorry. There's also a little bit of blue purple around her lashes, and everything that seems to look on fire, we're just going to put it out. Remember to go really slow. This looks on fire. We push it out. You see, it's like putting water on fire. Also here we can find areas that are too warm. For example, that little lip corner on the bottom of the lip. And even the top of the lip. I'm pushing it down. And how about here? Like I said, you can thin it more, but I'm being very, very careful. Shadow. Blue is the opposite color of orange or red orange, and therefore it really helps to neutralize the skin and turn it into a more natural looking skin tone wherever it's too intense. Because I've been using mainly reds and oranges, whether it's dark or light, opaque or not opaque. And so it needs an opposite color to sort of balance it out. We can also use some in the hair. And maybe just here on the jawline. I'm going to stop with the blue. I don't want it to become a smurf. Clean it out really well because the candies remain strong. And then I'm going to take a yellow orange. Also here for I have candies. A yellow orange can be, well, let me find the ones that I think are good for it. If you don't have candies, you can also take Indian yellow, for example, which is like a yellow orange. Then you add 3 drops of Airbrush medium, a colorless binder, and you fill the rest of your cup with water. That will be good for a glaze. Now let me clean out that blue really good, because if I add it to a yellow, it's going to look green, right? Let me just grab some candies. I think these two are really nice. This is called Sunbeam Yellow candy, and this is called Teak Brown, also candy. Teak Brown represents the burnt sienna, but then very transparent. Burnt sienna is more like an opaque pigment. And sunbeam yellow represents the Indian yellow, but very transparent. This will be more bright, this will be more orange, okay? Now let's start with some yellow first, that is the weaker color. Also here we take one drop, we fill it with water until the tube of the cup. The yellow actually needs to be even less strong than the blue, as there's nothing in her skin that I want yellow. The blue, I actually wanted her eyes to be more yellow and her lips to be more purplish, so I needed a stronger blue in comparison to my yellow. So I'm going to thin the yellow and then test it, and if it's still too strong, I'm going to throw out some yellow and have space for the water. That's what I'm going to do. I find it too strong. So I'm going to spray out some, and now I have space in my cup to fill it again with water. It will be highly diluted but still strong enough to make a bit of a yellow in the face. Now this is way softer. I'll put it here on the bottom so you can see it. I can really glaze with it like it's a lemonade. Alright? I will start around the nose. You let it dry. This is now yellower. If it looks like a banana, you went way too far. 1, 2, and stop. Let it dry. 1, 2, and let it dry. I'm basically warming up the face. So some parts were too warm, I cooled them down with blue, and some parts are not warm enough or yellow enough, and I warmed them up with my yellow. Going around this zone. Also here. If you find it hard to see, you can cut your photo in pieces and do piece per piece. You can use a trick for that. You can use 2 circles and you put one on your reference and one on your painting. So for example, if you want to compare this color with this color, you simply, let me make sure it's clean, you simply put this here and this here, and they are, well, basically the same. Well, you can't see my reference, let me just move that a bit. Basically the same, right? Same spot, same color. And if mine looks more yellow, I need to either try to sand it off with the magic sponge or counter it with violet, because that's the opposite for yellow, a blue violet. But I cannot do that on highlights. On highlights I need a white to cool down, okay? Because if you take a dark color on a highlight, it's going to look very, very dark and colorful. So you only do that in the shadows or in the dark midtones, the neutralizing of color that is too much. That's why it's better that you just prevent these kind of things and you stay really soft with the colors. I need a bit more yellow, but I see that I made an accidental stripe here with, I think with the sponge, where I used a bit of dirty side. I'm going to turn it into the texture that I see on the photo and break that line a bit from the sponge. Now that's better. I will continue with my yellow. Let's see where I can find more yellow. I definitely see more yellow around that lip in the shadow area, and maybe even that chin. There we go. Now she has this beautiful glow. That's what I was missing. Also here. Maybe even a bit there. And even on the cheeks. And on the side of the nose. Corners in the eye. A little bit in the hair, but not too much. You don't want banana hair. It's only if it's not warm enough or not yellow enough. I think that's enough yellow. Now let's go to tea brown, which will be more orange. If you don't have it, you can add a drop of red and make your own orange. Just gonna empty this. Also here we take 1 drop and we fill the rest with water. If you want it less strong, you can add a drop of medium, as it's a slightly darker color. You really only need 1 drop, guys. If you put 2 drops, you need double the amount of water, which is 4 full cups basically. So I watered it down, filled the cup with water. I'm going to look for things that I miss a bit of orange. For example, the bone between the nose and the I gently make it warmer. The eye corner as well. A bit here around the nose. And even a bit there. Underneath the eye, in the little crease, but only in the crease here too. Not in the light parts of the skin, because I've just pushed them back. They were too orange. And now it's perfectly right. Some areas between the hair. A little bit of hair as well. This is such a beautiful color for a lot of things. Let's make her smile. We'll give her orange glow around the smile. Also inside the philtrum we can find an orange glow. And even in the nostrils I find an orange glow. I'm going to warm up his nose. And a little bit on the cheek. Everything is little. Very good. Corner. There. This is probably the hardest thing of the portrait. To keep the color thin and to apply the color little. Because people love to give too much and then they keep painting, boom, 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 5-6 layers, and then they watch and they say, oh, that was too much. It will be very hard to take it off. You will need to correct, and that's very hard at the end of your portrait. You would need white. So, I think I've warmed her up perfectly, and we've added some details with our erasers. We've added a lot of details in the lip. There's also a beautiful orange glow around the shadow. I can use my teak brown for that. Gives a little bit of a warm punch right underneath that. Yeah. Now guys, let me know if you have any questions, and if you're making your own soft portrait, please share on the Patreon chat. I'm very curious to see what you're doing. I hope you all had a splendid weekend, and I'm looking forward to the next lesson. The next lesson will be a beautiful project chosen by one of you as a member. It was a little contest a while ago, and that will be our next project. A lot of textures, a skull, a lot of things. So I will prepare that project, and we're going to take it down in steps, because there's a lot of things to show and to explain. Now, I hope you enjoyed my soft portrait, and I'm sure there will be more projects in the future like this. But for now, you have a lot of, material to work with already. And I think she's beautiful to practice with. She has a nice face with round features. She has big eyes, beautiful lips and nose. So it's nice to take a portrait that has these features and that has a bit of contrast, like a nice light and a nice shadow. And that makes it more fun while you're working. Because when you're choosing a photo that is flat, that hasn't got a strong light or a strong shadow, and it doesn't have nice round features to work on with colors or details, it's quite boring and hard to paint, because you can't really find anything to hang on to. And she has everything in her face to hang on to. So yeah, I think this is really nice for practice, especially for this kind of style. And I'm so curious to see if any one of you is going to give it a try. Even if you don't want to show me, try it anyway. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm going to take it a step further with the Full Pack members advanced group. If you're there, I'll see you there. Bye guys! Thank you for watching.